A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Over the weekend, you may have heard that story about flooding in the Volta region town of Ho. Usually when we report floods, Ho doesn't come to mind, and this was quite a surprise to many of us. But what exactly caused this? And we've been hearing some allegations of buildings and waterways, others claiming otherwise and saying there was a certain bridge that was flooded and so it overflowed its banks and all that. Our man, Fred Kwame Asare, is there for us in the Volta region of Ho. He's been assessing the situation. As we are told, millions of cedis in terms of properties have been washed away. Fred, give us a quick wrap of what happened over the weekend and what we've been hearing from NADMO and other officials. Hello, Fred? Hello, Fred, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right, I was asking you to give us a quick wrap of what happened over the weekend and what officials have been saying.
Okay, so on Saturday at about 3 p.m. it started raining here. Just a normal rain. There was no storm that was still like just a normal rain, but then it was heavy. So it rained up till about 5 p.m. when we started seeing videos on social media of flooding in Civic Center. This particular area floods anytime during the rainy season, anytime it rains heavily in Ho. One shop that is belongs to one woman popularly known as Awudi suffered a great effect. The back of the shop, the flood broke through the back of the shop and then swept away everything in the shop. They dealt in textiles, jewelry, and then other materials. They were all swept away. He mentioned to me that the items run to about millions of cedis, and so he would not be able to give me the exact figure as at Saturday evening when I spoke to her. The Ghana Fire Service officials were also at the scene, and then they tried to help her salvage some of the items that were left in the shop. Just a few of them were left in the shop. They salvaged the items and then took them away. So now they have condoned the area. They have barricaded the area. So nobody is supposed to go to the area. It's described as a disaster zone at the moment. But what residents are saying is that erection of structures along the Veta Hill, that is the uphill Veta Hill, it's also called Kabakaba Hill, is the major cause of flooding downstream. They are saying that authorities and then landowners in that area do not have any plan as to how buildings should be erected, so that when it rains or when it rains and then water runs up from upstream, it will be directed into drains and then it will not run into homes and shops downstream. And they are also saying that the town or the drains in the town, especially around Banque, Civic Center, and then other areas downstream, are not big enough to contain the rainwater or flood water anytime it rains. So they are suggesting that if the need be, or if the authorities can redesign drainage systems in the entire whole community, whereas anytime it rains, they would have a bigger drain, or there would be a big drain that can contain the flood water so that it will not have to run into their homes. The authorities are also saying that per their investigations, they have noticed that people have also built along waterways or in waterways somewhere around powerhouse, medical villages, so that some people tried to divert streams because they wanted to build at a particular section where the streams there, but then they built across the streams and then created a small gutter behind.
Too bad. We lost Fred Kwame Asare there, but he was just narrating to us what occurred over the weekend and what officials as well as residents have been saying. But I'm so grateful because I've been joined by Mr. Benjamin Podo, who is MP for Ho Central, and Divine Bosson, who is MCE for Ho. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. So let me start off from where we lost my colleague Fred Kwame Asare, and I'll start with you, Mr. Bosson, because you and other officials are attributing what occurred to people building in waterways and diverting a certain drain or something of the sort. My question to you is, where were the authorities when these people were putting up these buildings? And why was nothing done about it?
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I want to use your medium to once again sympathize with the people who have lost their West. I'm so grateful to God Almighty that, irrespective of what happened, no life has been lost. And that is a very, very, very good thing for us and to the good people of them. Speaking also in a capacity as somebody who has technical knowledge when it comes to disaster management, because I was the former regional director of NADMO Water Region, and to say, talk about people building on a waterway, it is something that I knew in the past. It is something that I've been dealing with, even as a NADMO director then, and now as a municipal chief executive. The first major exercise I carry on in the office as a chief executive is to do with something I name or I christen Operation Let's Get the Road Open, under the concept, the road train. It is a concept that we cleared people who are built on roads and people who are built at unauthorized places to create more access for both vehicular and then in situations like this, gutters for waters to have their free flow. So it is something I've been dealing with. I'm done with the first phase. By August to November, I'll be starting the second phase. And it is something that I know that people have built on a waterway. We have not waited for the directive from the president before we commence with it. We have already started.
Mr. Boston, when you say you're dealing with it, what exactly do you mean? Are you demolishing homes and properties?
I have in the past pulled down structures that are on the waterways, pulled down structures that are built on roads. That is what I meant by we have been dealing with, and will continue to deal with them. To talk about the last Saturday downpour, rainfall that lasted between 4 to 5 hours. It poured down heavily without anywhere like that in all areas. It comes with some form of disasters, but not talking only about the natural way of the downpour that may cause the kind of havoc we have experienced last Saturday, and we went around to do some assessments yesterday. There could also be an artificial one, that's the man-made one. Man-made because people who want to have a comfortable life, then they think they must cause the discomfort of others. And you listen to the earlier report from your correspondent here, people built and then encroached into the waterways. People even directed their waste, including the manhole that contained the fecal matter, into the drains. Water is such that naturally it has a natural path. And when we try to encroach each natural path, it directs or it looks for the next natural path. And accidentally, when it's looking for the next natural path, it will end up being a guest in our rooms or our home. That was what happened the last time. People are planting plantation. You know, at the bank of these drains is so fertile. So people are using the grounds to plant plantain, palm plantations, and other fruit trees and vegetables around the banks of these drains. Because the area used to be so fertile, whenever it falls heavily, those things fall down naturally and move into the water and become a stoppage for the flow of the water. That is what we are seeing on your screen now. These are some of
we can see that. We can see clearly what's happening. But just help me understand. You are talking about these challenges that could have possibly led to what we saw over the weekend. It takes a while for people to grow maize or any form of crop for it to mature to this point and cause flooding like we've seen. Is it the case?
Madam,
Is it the case? Please, is it the case that when you see these things, you have a challenge dealing with them immediately, or?
I am one individual. Even if you speak to my good friend, Honorable MP, now he will tell you I am a proactive person. I don't wait for things to get out of hand before I try to do the fireman approach. When the fire is burning, then you come and pour water into it. No. Baho is becoming a very vast area. And as an individual and a team, we cannot be at every place at all times. And when information has not gotten to us, it will be difficult for us to deal with some of these issues. At the place of the spot of this action, the disaster spot, it is not that the people who are around there planted this thing around their side there, but it was taken from a distance, and the debris is what blocked the passing.
Mr. Boston, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you shortly, but let me now bring in Mr. Benjamin Pudo, and I want to mention that we've been joined by Ivy Ameuga. She's NADMO director in the Volta region. I'll be going to her shortly. Thank you for holding on, Mr. Pudo. This happened largely in your constituency. Your constituents have been affected. We are trying to do a post-mortem on what exactly caused this to happen, because when you hear of floodings, to this magnitude, you hardly will hear the Volta region being mentioned. Per your own assessment, residents say the drains are small. We're just hearing from the MCE that some people have built in waterways. What is your assessment of the situation, and what are you learning to be the cause of this incident?
First of all, I want to thank you, JoyNews, for taking interest in the disaster that has plagued my city. I also want to share in the grief of the victims who suffered this disaster, especially Madam Awume. You see, in Ho, this particular rainstorm or torrential rain is peculiar. For a long time, it hasn't rained in this manner. The rains came in and stayed for a continuous period of upwards of 3 hours. There was no storm, but as they drained down their lane to find their level, so much destruction took place. We have heard how the water flowed down from Abakaba Hill through the drains in Bankwe, then to the barracks, then to cross the Plough Road between the Ho Polyclinic and Trafalgar Hospital, otherwise known as the Ho Teaching Hospital. It caused a lot of havoc. And I think that the principal or fundamental cause for this is the size of the drains. They need to be expanded so that where the volume of water is such large like the one we have, it can find space to move without causing the havoc that it has caused. The walls of the palace, the fence walls for the palace forecourt grounds have also been affected. And the woman's shop, which is just close by, is the one which has been devastated. You see all her wares being brought out by the rain, the flood, and shipped away. So if we can expand the drains and make them deeper, and also get our people to stop dropping waste into the drains carelessly, I'm sure that we can solve part of the problem.
Right, Mr. Podo, I've been joined by the NADMO director for the region. Let me just take her quick thoughts and I'll come back to you. Good morning to you, ma'am, and thank you for connecting with us. We just heard from the MP for the area about how peculiar Saturday's incident was. What is the character of floods in Ho over the years, and what do you think made this one different?
Thank you and good morning to you all viewers. We've experienced floods in Ho over the years, but this Saturday's own was very, very severe. The impact was severe, and we have been overwhelmed with what we saw on Saturday. The reasons, yesterday a team of comprising of the assembly engineers, the MC, myself and my team, NADMO Municipal, and the whole team went around, and we were able to point out some structures that have been constructed on waterways, being one of the causes, and indiscriminate littering of the drains that we have. People intentionally just throw their rubbish in the drains that we have, which made it to get choked once there is little rain. And then we realized that we have some engineering problems about the drain. So those were some of the causes that we have identified. Yesterday I've spoken with the hydrology department. I spoke with the boss who told me he's in Accra, but he'll be coming down for us to take him around to give us expert advice on what can be done about the drain that we have currently.
We understand that the rains fell for about 4 to 5 hours. Is this something you would say, I mean, could not have been avoided even if you had storm drains? You know, and even in advanced countries, you see that when nature takes its course, and when I say that, I mean when you have very heavy rains, there's sometimes really nothing you can do about it. But is this a situation like that, or you strongly believe that this could have been averted?
The situation, I would say, this is a natural disaster, but I feel the impact could have been lesser if these causes that we have identified were not to obstruct the free flow of the rainwater, as in the choked gutters being a result of indiscriminate pouring of waste into the gutters. At least the impact would have been quite minimum than what we witnessed.
Help me understand, beyond responding to incidents like this, how NADMO works. Do you, for example, go round ensuring that there are no buildings and waterways in a proactive sense of your work? Because you're now identifying after the fact that people were building in waterways, the drains could have been, constructed or could have been expanded. The width of the drains could have been expanded to contain more water. Beyond reacting to incidents of flood and disasters, what does NADMO do in the proactive sense? And I want you to be as practical as you can on this score.
Thank you for this particular question. NADMO, we do a lot. We have one aspect that we talk about hazard mapping. We identify possible hazards in the community, like dilapidated buildings, human activities that may cause disasters of this nature. But NADMO, as in pulling down structures, unauthorized structures and things, NADMO don't have the mandate yet to pull down structures that have been built on waterways. Our aspect is to identify and inform the assembly, give them reports, because they give permits to people to build. So the assemblies have the final say as to whether to react to whatever advice NADMO has given them.
Did this happen in the Volta region? What you're citing, was there ever a case where NADMO did its own assessment and told the municipal assembly that, look, we are seeing a potential problem this building is going to cause, or that particular drain or otherwise? Did it happen in the Volta region?
Yes, thankfully the FC now was the former NADMO director. Hence, during his tenure, me being deputy, I'm very much aware of some measures that we have suggested to the assembly. So I'm only hopeful that he being in the seat now as a former disaster manager can also expedite action on things that we have been informing the assembly over the years to do.
But since you took over, have you done any of those assessments? Because according to him, just in this interview, the whole area is fast developing, and it's become quite a vast area to supervise. But since you took over, has anything like that happened?
Yes, I'll say since I took over, the municipal director in their various reports that they always send copies to the assembly have identified some structures that need to be removed. So I'll say ever since I took over, those the reports I always get on my table, such advices have been given.
All right, and Mr. Bosson, have you acted on the advice given you by NADMO? And are you able to tell us in specifics, maybe this building in this area or that area was pulled down because NADMO cautioned us about the potential of it causing havoc when it rains? Hello, Mr. Bosson. Well,
hello.
All right, great.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please, did you get my
me?
question? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I listened to you. I listened to your question, and I want to say that several buildings were pulled down.
Which ones? I want you to be very practical. So if the people of Ho are watching, they can pinpoint or they can testify to those buildings having been pulled down.
I'm going to call an area for you. One church, a building with a wall around Powerhouse on the roadside was pulled down. When you come to Dopo Kope, around the cemetery, several buildings built on a way and a waterway both for vehicular and water was pulled down. When you come to Zion Zion Junction, something we call Blissan Bypass, buildings were pulled down there because I knew of these things before I became municipal chief executive. So based on several reports that we've made to the assembly, and because NADMO, as stated by my successor, mentioned hasn't gotten the power yet through the LI to do some of these. They solely depend on that. A time when the thing has become something that people are living with for a very long time, and you are coming just within 1.5 years to correct this mistake that has been there over ages. You know the opposition and the those are some of the we are facing. But notwithstanding, we have achieved some of these goals.
Mr. Bosson, it always beats my mind whenever we hear about buildings and waterways, because there's such a stringent process that people have to go through to get a permit to build, and it always beats my mind how we are able to allow. And I'm just landing on that point. So you've mentioned about 5 or so buildings that have been pulled down.
Go on and go on.
Yes, okay, so you have more of them. So the particular buildings you identified are still being in waterways which caused this particular flood. Is it the case that you didn't know they existed if you have been able to demolish a lot a lot of those buildings. Is it the case that you didn't know they existed, or there are projects that are just starting, or what exactly is the case? Why is it that the ones that you are attributing to have caused this flood are still sitting in the waterways?
Some of these structures or buildings have been there for ages. Hello?
I'm listening to you.
Some of these buildings have been there for ages. Some are as old. If you listen to the woman who spoke on your station this morning or yesterday night, Madam Awunye, she was only 16 years when she came to live in the area. Meaning before she came there at the age of 16 years, somebody was using the place, and she's now 54 years. Meaning these buildings has been there for ages, for centuries. And it is still there. At the time, they were not causing any problem. But as development continues, you know, development is so dynamic. And the dynamism that comes with the development, as development continues, we now realize that this and that building, something needs to be done with. And we are just doing some of these things. To talk about permitting, at whole assembly, since I became an MCE, your permit may not last with us more than a month. Within a month, you are cleared to go and do your building, and we have some measures put in place to support the environment, like building the assemblies, prescribe a drainage system if you are the last man building at the roadside, planting of number of trees on your compound, and this thing will be followed until you are given your final certificate from the assembly after completion of your building. So we are doing our best, but maybe our best is not enough. We just have to step up the game. But on Saturday, what happened? I want to put it on record. It has affected a lot of roads. Some communities have been cut off. Those who have their cars in town before the rainfall cannot go back to their homes. Those who have their cars in their house before the rainfall cannot drive their car out of their homes. We are only fortunate that no school or no public structure is affected, but roads in particular, electricity disconnections, water disconnections, and road are very, very, very great in the municipality.
Please hold on for me. Hold on for me, Mr. Bosson, and let me just go back to the MP for the area, and then I'll come back to you for your concluding remarks. And thank you for holding on, Mr. Kodo. So your main job as an MP, I understand, and I know, is to be a lawmaker, right? And that's why the MCE is there and the other local authorities are there to foster development and all. But what are your general thoughts about the way forward for the people of Ho to ensure that this does not recur? Hello, Mr. Kodo. Kindly unmute, sir, if you can hear me. Hello, Mr. Kodo, if you can hear me, kindly unmute your device.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying that this is not the first time flood or severe rains have created problems for us in Ho, except that this particular one is in west of Martinamidu, Gargantua. We have had this experience from Ho Bankwe through Anglokoji to Barat. That alone was enough warning for us to expand the drains over there and deepen them.
And you didn't. So you admit that you failed? I'm saying that I can hear you perfectly. So I'm saying that it was enough warning signs for you, but you failed.
Yes, it was enough warning for us.
You failed to act on that.
To expand the drains, but we didn't do that. I'm sure that part of the contributory factor will be funds. But we now have a fund for secondary city development. I think the MCE should, with his team, prioritize these drains as part of utilization of that fund, because we approved from Parliament some amount for the elevation of the bridge at Ho Polyclinic, but we can't find out, we don't know what has happened to that project. So the Assembly needs to prioritize that using this fund, or start it little by little from its allocation of the common fund. That is the way out. I can vouch that the MCE has cleared some portion of roads which were occupied by builders. But that place from Dome to the SSB Bank area is a little far away from the drain, the main drain, which is down the valley when you are going from Dome to the market. So I don't think that alone would have contributed to any blockage of the drainage. That place wouldn't have. So we have to look at the drain specifically. And our planning department must be up and doing. Get to the areas that people have put structures along the drains. And then, demolish them to expand the bridges and the waterways. That is what will solve this problem, because I can assure you that more rains will come. This is another significant warning to us that it could be worse if we do not take the necessary actions now.
Thank you for your time this morning. And that's Benjamin Podo. He is MP for Ho Central. And in there, he admits that something could have been done to avert this. Let me end with you, Divine. Divine Boston is MCE for Ho. So what are the next steps? I'm asking because we've seen some buildings collapsed. We've seen walls that have been broken, pillars that have been affected. In fact, we understand from our reports on the ground that the area has been cordoned off. But I wish we had the NADMO regional director on. But since you're MC, I'm sure you can also answer this question. What is the plan to test the intent?
Also the chairman of the Disaster Management Committee at the municipal level.
Fantastic. So what is the plan to check the integrity of the buildings that appear to be standing, seeing the nature of the floods and the force with which the water was moving, so that we are sure that buildings are still, have to have the integrity that they need to have people dwell in them or work in them, so we don't have a disaster after the disaster.
Thank you, my beautiful sister. I want to disagree with some aspect of the submission of my honorable MP. He is Komla.
Please, you have to be quick about it. Please, you have to be quick about it.
You see, we cannot do any work on that major bridge at Donokoji, Trafalgar Road, that's serving between Ho and Aflao, without constructing a bypass. That is why Assembly, by the end of this month, we are commencing a 2.45 kilometer length of bypass to serve that purpose. And my government, who has a plan and vision for the good people of Ho, is prepared to do something on that road. If they have passed something in Parliament, it's not in the Assembly yet, and I can't speak to that. To talk about what happened the last time, truly disaster is something that we have to live with. And I would advise we should adopt the Asian state, especially Japanese method, that BBB, when if ever disaster occurred, we should be able to build back better. That will be something that Assembly will be pushing from now. And I have to mention with a heart of gratitude, when Togbe Apede called me yesterday, that I should put a holistic measure in place to have a final solution to all these problems. And he gave me some instances that he will be of good help to partner with government so that we rebuild some or build the storm drains that need to be done. As an MC, I have packaged some of these things to Ministry of Works and Housing earlier. And last time I went, I was told 2 was considered because I know that these are the problems in Ho. We are having a plans to at least have final solution, if not final, have some measures put in place that when these things occur, it will not affect the masses as it did the last time. Normally, Ho normally has a heavy downpour during September and October. And this year alone, from June to July, we had this kind of rain about 3 times already. It's also the confirmation of the climate change issue that we have to deal with. So we must come on the table as stakeholders.
Yeah, Mr. Basson, to my question, we are running out of time. My question to you is, we've seen that walls are broken, pillars are showing, the integrity of some buildings have been greatly affected. And I'm asking you, as the MCE, what the plan is to ensure that every building that has survived the flood is, tested to ensure that people can dwell and work in there, so you don't have a disaster after disaster.
In a collaboration with NADMO and the Assembly, we will do that testing, and then those that we have already identified, I've sent my men onto the ground to commence pulling down some of them. They cannot stand because they are already standing as a threat to commuters of the area. Therefore, they must go down. And as the assessment of the final assessment is done by NADMO and my engineering department, those things will be carried on. Thank you.
Thank you too. I'm grateful for your time this morning. That's Divine Boson. Earlier you heard MP for Ho Central, Benjamin Kudu, and we had the NADMO director for the Volta region also joining, Ivy Amewuga. Well, it's now time to get interactive with you. I'll be back shortly. Do stay.